So who would like to volunteer and respond to our frame? Once again, you see the frame in the chat. I'm a Black person, and here's my take on the Charlie Kirk situation.
Because this is a circle for Black people to speak, then Black people are the only ones that will be provided 2 minutes. I hope everybody understands why without explanation. And in order to start this off, Fred Lynch has agreed to take the first 2 minutes, and then he'll return to his ref duties with me. Fred,
Okay.
go ahead. You got 2 minutes to launch us.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm going to go on and get started. My thoughts, I had all of these facts that I'm pretty sure everybody has seen, facts upon facts upon facts. But I thought I just want to speak a couple of things from the heart. When I think of Charlie Kirk, of course, first of all, it almost goes without saying that I'm sorry the murder happened. I wish no person to die in a horrible way like that. I wish no child to lose a father. I wish no wife or spouse to lose a mate. So yes, however, there's still some disturbance with me. I'm even more grieved with more things upon top of that. For example, I'm grieved that our country is looking at itself and seeing the ugliness of our divide. Who was it years ago that said that our biggest problem of the 21st century will be the issue of the racial divide? And I think that's it. I look at, to me, Charlie Kirk was a type of a soldier. He was what Richard Rohr would call a good soldier, but he was the type of soldier that my namesake, Frederick Douglass, I just learned this morning. The same situation happened with Robert E. Lee when Robert E. Lee died. Oh, everybody's crying and they eulogize him, saying he's such great, but he was a soldier sent to the wrong cause. Charlie Kirk died to, much because of his own words, but because of the hatred of someone else. I'm brokenhearted that this was a white man that died at the hands of another young white man, but HBCUs have to suffer the threat as well as more Black people. He was a good soldier that was sent like to the Crusades, and he died, unfortunately, but it still shows the divide in our country.
Thank you, Fred. Who would like to go first? Asking Fred a question, clarifying question, beginning with the words, "I'd be curious to know."
And just to clarify, anybody can ask the "I'd be curious to know." Black, white,
right,
somewhere in the beautiful in between.
Mr. Hancock.
Thanks, Fred. I'd be curious to know if you had another minute to flesh out, here's what I think, part of what you were saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I had another minute, I would say I did notice, and I shared my grief on Facebook, as a lot of people did as well. And I got pushback from Christian brothers and sisters who were like, this was a Christian, this was a man of God. And I look at the issue of Jesus himself saying, by your words, you'll be justified, by your words, you'll be condemned. And the particular words of hatred that he used, this man was bankrolled by people that like behind the scenes were really kind of paying for this type of divisiveness. And he, at 16 years old, 18 years old, started Turning Point. So now he is shooting off like a rocket. And what he was basically good at is just stand-up debate. I wish he would have lived longer so he could have grown out of his foolishness.
Jim?
So I'd be curious to know what you think are the odds that he would have grown out of his foolishness as distinct from getting further into the tall grass.
Good question. I honestly think that it was probably a 10% chance. And that 10% chance, honestly, is, in my opinion, would have been something like that his children would have fallen in love with a person of color or something like that. Later on down the line, And the reason why is because he was bankrolled. Money got involved. When he got when he started out, if you listen to any of his debates at the beginning when he was a lot younger, a lot of what he was talking about was money and finance and so on and so forth. The vitriol, the algorithms start turning up the vitriol. And so everybody was saying, we want more of that, as well as his financiers are saying, give us more of the ugly hate because it gets more clicks. And he did it. So that to me shows, yeah, you would have rode this wave out as long as you could have. And that's unfortunate.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim. Anyone else? I'd be curious to know for Donald.
Be curious to know that you spoke about Christianity and being a Christian. How do you call all of the words that came out as Christian words? How do you see that as being Christian and like Jesus?
Good question. In fact, I like your divide between Christian and not Jesus, because if we follow the ways of Jesus himself, Jesus said that if you say raka to someone, raka means a worthless person, you worthless person, that you're in danger of hellfire. Okay, so those words that were used against blacks, against LGBTQ, against women, those words were not loving words, and there is no way that God will ever justify. It totally reminds me of the Cain and Abel story. I talked about that this morning in my podcast, is that as much as Cain could try to whitewash it, God saw the whole story. You can't whitewash it. It's an empty offering.
Donald, do you have a follow-up? Starting with, I'd be curious to know.
I would be curious to know, could you expound on that just a little bit more, because I was left hanging.
Sure. And once again, this is what I do love about the Bible, is that it is a book of stories and traditions of people trying to figure God out, as well as trying to get along. And we see so many times over and over again in the Bible where you do have this divide of people that are about sacrifice and about doing and keeping all the rules, and then people that are on this strain of just saying, I don't care what I do, I still recognize that I've got to love and got to forgive. And I think that's the correct route. And those that say that I'm going to do all of these things, but yet I still treat my brother wrong, they don't get it. And unfortunately, we're seeing in our country a lot of people who are going that route, specifically using this whole trope of vengeance and the sword and all of this type of stuff. That is the wrong route. We're trying to get God to answer by fire, and he's like, I don't do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Someone else I'd be curious to know for Fred Lynch. Robin.
Fred, I'd be curious to know if you could talk about how Charlie Kirk used his rhetorical skills to dominate and win, as it is, over other people, and if you think that is a Christian way to act.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. I'd like to give you a reference. That's what I was talking about. There was somebody, it's up on Facebook and IG, Instagram, and all of that. People are using Frederick Douglass's talk about Lee in comparison. And Frederick Douglass said that this man was skilled in war, but he was he was sent to the wrong cause, not the lost cause. And in the same sense, to me, Charlie Kirk was very skilled in being on his feet. In fact, what they wanted someone that was a Russ what's his name? The guy that used to be the guy on television. You know what I'm talking about? That old,
Rush Limbaugh.
Rush Limbaugh.
Rush
They wanted
Limbaugh, yeah.
they wanted a young Rush Limbaugh, and this is what they had. Someone was quick on their feet that could say that, but he used it, unfortunately, to bash people, and that's not the way of Jesus.
Robin, do you have follow-up?
Yeah, Fred, I'd be curious to know if you could compare it, debate or three practice circles, compare the difference.
Oh, now that's a good question, because the conversation was not about curiosity. And in fact, what was interesting that I don't think a lot of people think about this, but what Charlie Kirk did was, okay, if he started at 16, he was skilled in debate. Then he went to these colleges, and it was almost like him going to do arm wrestling, but he had certain tricks that he knew he would win because he had himself positioned in a way to immediately win. So these quick takedowns was the thing. So it became a spectacle that people came to see these quick takedowns, and they turned these quick, it was WWF. It was totally just fake wrestling, because these were kids who weren't thinking, who weren't like having it all together and figuring all of this out. And he had pat answers that were actually wrong, and he knew were factually wrong, but he used those takedown techniques anyway to make himself look like he really was knowledgeable.
Thank you. Let's take one more. I'd be curious to know for Fred before we open it back up to somebody else. Anyone else? For Fred Lynch, I'd be curious to know. Daniel Skepple.
Fred, my brother, I'd be curious to know, where do you go from here as a country?
Thank you.
Very good question. And I think I have to soberly say that we have to go further into the wound. We have to bleed the poison out. We have to look at our ugliness and sit with it. We have to get to the point where we can recognize that this was not the way.
Oh.
Unfortunately, I think that we're going to end up having more, like, look at this big thing that they had on television to quote unquote honor Charlie Kirk. There are going to be people who are going to try to mimic Kirk in the name of, it reminds me of people that were going to war and thinking that war is great. And I think it was Teddy Roosevelt that wrote about war, and he said, this is not valor. This is not trying your mettle and trying to be great. This is terrible. And so we unfortunately have to go deeper, and it's not done yet.
Daniel, do you have a follow-up? Yep. Daniel Skepple, do we?
No. Sorry,
okay,
no, I
okay,
didn't.
right.
Sorry.
Okay, here we go. Okay. Fred, you want to take over ref duties here?
Yes, I will.
And,
I'll take it over. Thank you so much, Jim, for letting me get my two in. Why don't we go on and go to the next round? Once again, here is a question that's on the table is, I'm a Black person, and here's my take on the Charlie Kirk situation. Is there another hand? I see Morris Jackson. Morris.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. And I think this is a great topic, and I'm glad we're all talking about it. So, obviously I'm a Black person, and here's how I feel about the Charlie Kirk situation. And I was actually familiar with Charlie Kirk and both sides of the coin. So in my opinion, Charlie Kirk, I think he had a very good shtick. He had a good act. It's very powerful when you wrap a political ideology in religion, because religion is very powerful. I mean, it's very effective. And the part I think that really upset me is that, and really I was surprised that so many Christians were fooled or bamboozled, if you will. How can you, as a Christian who abides in Christ, keeps to his tenets, and and as a part of abiding means that you are actually bearing fruit that is the evidence of you abiding in Christ. So how can you say in one breath that Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, And then on the other hand, you say such awful things about Black women, like my mother, my wife, my sister, my cousins, and, or about the qualifications of Black pilots, or to say that of all things, the Civil Rights movement the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. So you're actually not only denigrating, people of my ethnic background, but you're also threatening, if you will, my own existence and the struggle that our people have come through in this country. So I just did not understand, and so I really got upset, especially when pastor friends of mine who were white pastors, I confronted them on this. And how can you say that this person is a martyr for Christ when he did not represent the tenets of Christ to the fullest, and he just didn't bear the fruit? So I see that's my time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone that would like to follow up with a follow-up question? Jim, I see your hand.
Morris, thank you. I'd be curious to know if you could compare and contrast your perception of the George Floyd incident and the Charlie Kirk incident, from your perspective, how they're different or similar.
Sure. I think first off, no one deserves to be murdered. And I second that with also with Charlie Kirk. I am a veteran. I've served in theater of war. I know what it looks like when people are killed in that manner. It's terrible. It's horrible. I mean, for me to see that again was traumatizing. So no one deserves that. But I think both of those people deserved humanity. And what I did not see, I think, from some of my white counterparts, I'm not saying all, but some of my white counterparts, is they did not see the humanity in George Floyd. Now, we're not saying that he was a saint. We're not saying that, the police should not have been called. But what we are saying is that it should have been handled in the right way, and he should have been given this opportunity for due process. And I'm also a former law enforcement officer as well. So there's no reason that man should have died. But the reactions that we've seen from some of our white counterparts, I mean, it was just really cruel, and they didn't value his life whatsoever.
Thank you very much. Jim, do you have a follow-up question?
Morris, I'd be curious as to your opinion as to why religious people rushed in around Charlie Kirk, but they were absent around George Floyd.
Well, that is a very good question. I do think, and please bear with me when I say this, I do think Christianity as we know it here in America, it has always been based in race, and it has been racially charged, even from the inception of slavery and how the Bible was manipulated. And we even changed the Bible and actually gave slaves the slave Bible. So everything in this country, our country, was really based and built on a racial divide, if you will, or a white supremacy, or that hierarchy based on that. So, and then also when you talk about those biases, I just don't think a lot of times Black lives are valued the same way as white lives. Now, seeing this as a law enforcement officer, my fellow law enforcement officers may treat a little Black child differently than they do a white child. You see yourself in that child. You don't necessarily see yourself in that Black child.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Morris. I see Jeff Stevenson. I see your hand. I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, thank you, Fred. I'd be curious to know, as a white pastor, what would be how can I help make this type of thing right?
So that's a very good question. And I think really it just starts with the truth. Let's look at the totality of the circumstances, and let's look at Charlie Kirk as a whole, because we can't look at one side and only see that one side and all the good things he said, and then not look at the other things that he said. And when I've actually confronted some of my white friends who happen to be pastors, they almost did not want to hear or see any of the things that Charlie Kirk said that were very incendiary and racially insensitive, if I can put it so politely. Didn't even want to have that conversation. So I think by just being honest and recognizing and saying, okay, yes, he did say this. And if I compare what he said to the Bible and the fruits of the Spirit versus the works of the flesh, then I just think we have to be honest. And I think we get in trouble when we put our own biases or insert our own biases over what the Word of God actually says about a situation.
Thank you.
very much. Okay, was that your follow-up as well, Jim, right? Jeff? Yep, that was your follow-up. Anyone else have a curiosity? I'd be curious to know question for Morris. Donald, I see your hand.
Yeah, Morris, I would be curious to know, as you talk about, the question came up with George Floyd and Charlie Kirk. But what about the other politicians, those Minnesota, I believe, that were murdered? And how do you see that as how do we as a country view certain groups because of our political beliefs? How do you see that with Charlie Kirk?
So that's also a good question. So here these were two white people, right? So, but what's the difference here? They're Democrats or Democrats, as some would derogatorily call them. So, you know, because they're Democrats and because the Democrats is associated with supporting abortion and murdering babies, LGBTQ rights, and all of these other things that some would just say, hey, you know what, that disqualifies you. As a matter of fact, I've been told that if you are a Democrat, you can't even be a Christian, and so I never saw anywhere in the Word where it says that your political affiliation is what makes you Christian or saved or versus being unsaved. But we've allowed politics to creep into the body of Christ instead of keeping the word and keeping all those other secular institutions out of our Bible and out of the churches.
All right, very good, very good. Delano, do you have a follow-up with that?
No.
No? Okay. Is there anyone else? Maybe we do maybe one more. I'd be curious to know if anyone has it. Robin, I see your hand.
Morris, I'd be curious to know how this is making you feel.
Well, I mean, I really am concerned about the body of Christ because, the world is watching. And this memorial service that they're having right now for Charlie Kirk, a lot of Black people are watching this. Now, these are souls that we have been charged with going out and spreading the gospel, sharing the gospel with, and potentially win over to the kingdom of God. How is that impacting our witness as the church? Doesn't matter whether we're Black or white or Hispanic or whatever the ethnic background is. But this is having an impact on the brand of the church, the brand of Christ, if you will. Look, I remember seeing the Ku Klux Klan as a kid when we lived in Tennessee, and they had the cross and they claimed to be Christians, and that impacted me for a long time. So I just hope this doesn't have a lasting impact on those who are watching this.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Jim Hancock, I'm sorry, Jim Henderson. I'm going to hand it over to you, Jim, and so we can go to the next round.
Okay. Hey, Fred, can you take the next round for me, please?
I got you.
Thank you.
So Daniel, I see your hand up. So Daniel, would you like to go ahead and do your 2 minutes?
So today is my 66th birthday, and I am struck that in all of my years as a man of God trying to be, that I now have to fight the war of white supremacy theology. So white supremacy theology is the ideological thought that promotes the belief that white people are superior to people of other racial backgrounds and should therefore dominate society. The belief system has been used to justify discrimination, segregation, and violence against non-white individuals and communities. It often distorts religious teaching. I repeat that. It often distorts religious teaching to support his claim, leading to a harmful and divisive interpretation of faith and scripture. And that is what is happening. We are living in the vision of David Duke's America. A calm, educated, slick white supremacist, where white supremacy now has morphed itself into the political issues of the day. It's in there. And it's no longer a white supremacist issue. It's a issue of the day. And I'm struck by America's ability to continue to bastardize things like DEI, black pilots. Ridiculous, right? Knowing what you have to go through to be a pilot. My cousin is a pilot. My uncle's a pilot, right? Ridiculous. To saying black women don't have the capacity, brain capacity. So I've started asking people, what do I tell my granddaughters when they see that? What do I tell them? Please give me the words. I'm out of time.
Thank you so much, Daniel, and happy birthday, by the way. Do we have anybody with a curious question? Ashley, I see your hand.
Yeah, Daniel, I'd be curious to know if you had
Okay.
another 60 seconds, what you would continue to say there.
So when we look at things, we've turned conservatism into something ugly in America. It's into MAGA. DEI is into basically, instead of giving everybody an opportunity, it's giving me an opportunity to be a black pilot even though I'm unqualified. And my question always is, what airline is going to risk the lives of its customers and give $1 million asset to fly to somebody who's not qualified to fly it? So I started to look at these things, particularly the comment about black women, right? And his attack on my sisters. And I went and I looked at the particular example of Ketanji Jackson. There are 6 criterias, right? 6 criterias to be a Chief Justice. She's the only one on the court that has a yes in all 6 categories. And in fact, Amy Coney Barrett has 2 yeses in the 6 categories. So what we're saying is we're living in a society where the following is true. The underqualified white person is more qualified than the average or above average black person.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And do you have a follow-up, Ashley?
I'll hold it for now, if I may, please.
Okay. Is there anyone else with a curiosity question? I'd be curious to know. I see 2 hands. Donald, I saw your hand first, and then Morris, you're next. Donald.
Daniel, I would be curious to know, and which has been something been troubling me as well. It's been yesterday was my birthday. Thursday was my birthday as well. I'd be curious to know, as a grandfather, how do we talk to our grandsons and daughters about this divide in America when we thought that we were past that?
So Donald, I live in Canada, but I've had the conversations with my 3 boys and my daughter. The conversation, we know what the talk is. But now I'm going to have to add on to that talk and try and explain to them why certain factions in the United States, Christian factions, and the alarming amount of Christians, my friends, Christians, that I'm saying these things, right? Now I have to explain to them why you don't have the brain capacity of white people. Why, when somebody sees a black pilot, they're going to be concerned. I don't know how you explain it to them, other than you must understand, you are a lesser person. That's how the world sees you. You're a lesser person. You don't have the brain capacity or the capacity anyway to be above an average or under average white person. Hate to be harsh, but that's what we're saying with Charlie Kirk. That's what we're saying.
Thank you very much. Do you have a follow-up?
Yes. I would be curious to know, Daniel, I'm sorry. I'd be curious to know, as we think about this, what has happened, the attack on HBCUs in our country, and blaming Black people for the murder of this young man. What are your thoughts about that?
My thoughts are it's typical. It is absolutely typical. Let's blame the black people. Even though he was shot in a white state, predominantly white university by a white young man. But let's blame the black people. Let's blame the people of color. Because that's what they do. That's what they do. They blame someone else. And so Jimmy Kimmel, I believe, lost his job because he said the following: they're jumping through hoops to say that the person that killed Charlie Kirk was not one of them, when we all know he was. Yeah. So what they do is they blame others because it's always someone else's fault. Right? My question for them is, you have everything you wanted. You've got Project 2025. You got all 3 levels of government. Why are you still so angry? Why they're angry? Because we're not loving them.
Thank you very much. Those were 2. So we're going to Maurice. Morris.
Okay.
Are you Maurice?
Yeah, Morris. So Daniel, thank you for the insight. And I would be curious to know, what is your conversation? What have your conversations been with some of maybe your white counterparts, Christian or not Christian, workplace, what have you, in regards to Charlie Kirk? I know that, like I said, look, I've got a bachelor's degree, 2 master's degree, and a doctorate degree. And it still doesn't matter. I still get questioned on my qualifications. And I definitely don't go around flashing that. But what has been your interaction or the conversations with some of your white counterparts on this
Thank you,
particular
Morris. I'll give you an example, and this is typically what I have a young man that when I was living in Cleveland, he's a Salvation Army officer now. He was in my youth band, and he came out about Charlie Kirk being in heaven and thank you for all he's done. And I said, Tom, have you seen the things he said about black people in particular? Have you seen them? And I send him videos and I send him statements. And every time I talk to my white friends and I send them that information, here's what happens. Oh, I didn't know he said that. What the F? I didn't know he said that. Really? Oh, it must have been out of context. To which I respond, what context is there that allows you to say ignorant things about the intelligence of another race? What context is there? There's no context. None whatsoever. It was a dog whistle meant to say black people are stupid and they need assistance to be successful.
Thank you very much.
I'm coming through the computer screen. I apologize.
No, that's good.
Thank you.
That's good.
Thank
That
you.
was right at 1 minute. Thank you. Morris,
Bad 3 practice
follow-up?
guy.
No follow-up for me. Thank you
Okay,
so
so
much.
we have Sandy and then Darren. You said that you had a question as well, Darren? Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll go to Sandy first and then we'll go to Darren. Okay, Sandy?
Let's let Darren go first.
Okay. Darren, Sandy referred to you. So Darren, you have I'd be curious to know question?
I'd be curious to know. I think it's Daniel made the statement that black people are being blamed for Charlie Kirk's death. How is that? Because I haven't heard anything like that. And yes, I guess I'll just ask that.
The day after Charlie Kirk was killed, your president attacked HBCUs. And they also are going to be stopping funding to HBCUs in light of the Charlie Kirk murder. It's incumbent upon all Americans to be fully aware of what's going on in their country. It's not enough that I, as a Canadian, am more aware of what's going on in your country than Americans. It's not acceptable. So there was an attack on HBCUs, not a physical attack, but just a blaming that we're going to go after these people. Because beyond the smooth, educated Harrison Butkers of the Kansas City punter, right, and the Charlie Kirks, there's still an element of violence in the white supremacy movement. They're the foot soldiers, right? And they'll come out with these harsh things that they said about HBCUs.
Thank you very much. Darren, do you have a follow-up?
Well, I do have a second question, but my thing is I don't know how you just said they had an attack. I don't know how that refers to, or that says that
So
they're
Darren,
blaming.
Darren, if you could put it in, I'd be curious to know.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. Okay, I'd be curious to know also how you see the young man that killed Charlie Kirk as being on the right.
Because that's a history. He's from Utah. He's a conservative. His family's conservative. They're gun owners. I mean, it's all in the news. It's all just type in, right? There's a picture of his mom with an AK-47. I believe she quickly took that off of Instagram. Right? So it's all over. I'm not understanding why we're not seeing that. He wasn't from the left. He wasn't from the left. He was a right-wing conservative who was upset with Charlie Kirk. What he did was horrific, horrible, should never have happened. But he was on the right. So any attempts to make sure that that he was a trans person, I know that's happening, or that there were markings on the bullets that says he was a trans person, that's nonsense. That's bullshit. Right? That is not the reality of what happened here. He was from a right-wing conservative family. End of sentence. Period.
Well, you got the end of sentence right at the 0 point. So thank you very much. Do we have time for another? Does anybody else would like to take their 2 minutes? Once again, here's the question. I'm a Black person, and here's my take on the Charlie Kirk event. Anyone like to have 2 minutes? Okay, Darren Lucas. Darren, I see you pointing for 2 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna give you 2. There you
I'll
go.
take it. I'll take the clock, Fred, if you want me to.
Okay.
Yep.
Go for it.
Okay, in my 2 minutes, my take on the Charlie Kirk situation is very political, and it doesn't really deal with racism, and I don't think it's a racism issue especially as much as we're making it here, because number one, the young man clearly, yes, he grew up in a right-wing family, but as our young people do, they make decisions on their own beliefs, on their own political beliefs, and he clearly expressed left-wing beliefs. And the fact that he wrote on the bullet, "Hey, fascist catch," the only people that are using the term fascist are those on the left. And he actually shoots the bullet at a time when we're dealing with when Charlie Kirk is asked a question about a transgender question, and the young man is dating someone who's transitioning from a man to a woman. All of that says that this guy could definitely, if you wanna argue that he's on the left, but you definitely can't definitively say he's on the right because his family's on the right. You can't say it. There's no way in the world you can say it. Everything about him says he's on the left. And the fact that he made a statement, even in the testimonies he has, the texts that he wrote to his lover, they're asking him why he does it, and it's because he hates Charlie Kirk. He hates what Charlie Kirk believes in. He's clearly on the left, in my view. And what has happened between Fred and I is because Fred thought he was clearly on the right, and I thought he was clearly on the left, it made me say, why do we think so differently about this? And a lot of this is because of what we hear in the media, and that we don't do our own research and research enough to see what's going on. So I only have 13 seconds left. So I'll leave it at that. That's my big take, is that we are really jumping off of a cliff into something instead of seeing the issue as it really is and being very logical about it.
Thank you, Darren. I'd be curious to know for Darren. Daniel, you can go first.
I'd be curious to know, given the fact over the last 5 years, percentage of mass shootings by transgender people is 0.011%. Why do Americans continue to believe that every shooting has something to do with a transgender person?
I don't have the statistics that you just stated, and I would not say that it's obvious, it's clear, just as clear as what I just said. I can say definitively that every mass shooting is not by a transgender. That's obvious. So if someone on the right or the left says it, I wouldn't agree with it at all. So I would agree with you on that. And I think part of the problem is that each side tries to prove its point so hard that they go overboard instead of really sticking to, okay, this is what really happened. For example, when Van Jones puts up a clip of all of Charlie Kirk's statements, and they're all. If I listened to him like that, I was angry too when I listened to him. I was like, "Oh my God, this dude said this," and then I went back and listened to the context in which he was saying. I was like, "All right," and it made me really think differently about who he was and what he was saying, just because of my experience.
Daniel, I'd be curious to know.
I'd be curious to know your source for these things about transgender lovers, that he's firmly on the left leanings, and also the lie about the bullet casings, which has already been discounted.
I don't know how you're discounting them in that, because the FBI said these were the things that was on the bullets or the ammunition. Besides, I mean, so the evidence is the things that were on the ammunition, the text messages that he sent to his lover, the fact that he had a transgender lover, the fact that he shot a man at the time the man was speaking about transgender things. All of that brings a big question as to where this guy is. The fact that most of our young people at this time, I can't put a number, most of our young people are on the left. Everything about it says that he was on the left. Now, your statement that his family was on the right, I can't disagree with it. That's proven. You're right about that. But that doesn't mean that he can't be on the left.
Thank you, Darren. Morris, I'm going to come to you next. I'd be curious to know.
Yes, Darren, I would be curious to know, you made a statement that after you listened to Charlie Kirk's message in its entirety, that it changed your mind. I also listened to it in its entirety. I saw, as a matter of fact, it got worse.
Morris, could you find the question for us, please?
Yes. So how did listening to Charlie Kirk's messages change your mind about the context?
Thank you. Thanks, Morris. Appreciate it.
It changed my mind about the context because of my experience with especially young white Americans in this country and our presentation of racism, which has gone overboard. We cry over everything. We cry racism too quick over everything, and they're done with it, and they should be. It doesn't mean there's not systemic racism in this country. It doesn't mean that we aren't experiencing racism. But when we have our people, especially our young people, always complaining and being the victim when they live in the greatest country in the world and they can change their life like that as a Black person, but we still cry and complain, racism at every turn. If I were white, I'd be like, dude, I'm tired of this. And I've experienced it where young whites have said, we're tired of that. And so when a Charlie Kirk stands up and gives voice to what they're feeling, I'm like, I get it. I understand, because they're feeling like you guys are always, and we cry too much.
Thank you so much, Darren. Morris, you have a follow-up question starting with I'd be curious to know?
Yes, I do. I'd be curious to know, could you give me an example of what he said that you listened to, and after listening to in its entirety, changed the context of what you thought he meant previously?
You understand the question, Darren?
Yeah, give me a second to make sure I can recall. Yeah. Okay, I'm ready. All right.
You ready? Here we go. Thank you.
Not about the Black women. That kind of really hit me hard. He was making a oh my gosh, I'm sorry, guys. He was making a statement about the pilots, and Fred and I talked about this. The whole situation over DEI and choosing a pilot. I am a pilot, right? I fly also, just private pilot. But I understand how hard it is to become a pilot. But when I heard about what was happening, about them allowing Blacks to understand the test, especially with air traffic controllers, to understand the test, but not allowing white people to understand, where they were allowing people with less education to get into the air traffic control, whereas the guys with more education, they say, oh no, we don't want you. When I heard that, and then so Charlie Kirk comes around, so now we're gonna let these people, uneducated people, come in. You know, how he said it, I don't totally agree with, but I understood the sentiment. It's the same thing. Oh, my time's up. It's the same. I understood the sentiment of what he was saying.
Thank you, Darren. Fred, I'd be curious to know for Darren.
Darren, I'd be curious to know, In your opinion, how much of that type of understanding do we use to get along? In other words, are we going along to get along, and why?
Thank you.
I don't think, in the light of myself personally, just real quick background, I was far right 10 years ago. I came to the middle when I moved to Boston and saw some different things from Texas. Okay. And then this has pushed me further right. And the reason it's pushed me further right is because I feel like we, as a people, I used to feel like this, I still feel like this. We as a people are always, like I said earlier, crying racism. We call racism, we pull the racist card out too much. And so I don't know if I'm answering your question good, Fred. Maybe personally I can. I just feel like we, especially Black people, need to listen closer instead of crying racism so fast. And so I don't think that it's just like, I'm just trying to get along. I'm not just trying to get along. I'm just looking at it logically.
Fred, I'd be curious to know.
Darren, I'd be curious to know if our oppressor is sick, do we claim that sickness too until they get healed? Or do we call the sickness out so we can move on?
I feel like we call the sickness out, but I feel like after the surgery is done and things are getting better, we should also admit, hey, things are better. I listened to a Jubilee show today with the homeless and the millionaires, and there's a Black homeless guy on there crying. I just to turn the TV up, crying so much. We have this, and we've experienced this, and we've experienced that, and we've experienced that. And most white people at this time know and understand that and are sympathetic or empathetic to that and will help us with that. But yet we keep crying. If I were the kid, I'd be like, hey, can I get to know you? You're a millionaire. You got a job for me? Instead of crying, there's no opportunity for us here. There's too much opportunity for us.
I hear you. You're there. You're there. You're there. You got 10 more seconds. Go. You got
Hold on. Okay, go ahead. I can hear you now.
You say there's too much opportunity here. I hear you.
For all of our people, every one of us, we live in the greatest country in the world. We're the richest Black people in the world, in America. As a poor Black person, I'm the richest Black person in the whole world. And I'm going to cry? Oh.
Thank you. Thank you, Darren. Ashley, get the last, I'd be curious to know for Darren.
Yeah, Darren, I'd be curious to know why you think America needs to assign whether this murderer was right-winged or left-winged.
I was responding to, I think, Daniel's statement about him being left-wing. And Fred called me and we were talking, and Fred was like, he was clearly on the right. And I was like, he's clearly on the left. And here me and Fred are really good friends, right? And we love each other. We talk about everything, right? And I was like, why are we see this so far apart? And then I realized, and I did my own research, I realized I listened to the left and the right. I said, he's only listening to the left because if he listened to the right, maybe if he believes just, oh, they're lying about the bullets, or they're lying about the text message, or they're lying about this, or he's clearly on the right. You're just believing that he's on the right because his family's right. But did you consider the fact that he's 20-something? He's making his own decisions. He's deciding who he is based on what he wants, not just what his family has been, like all of us did. So he could be on the left.
Ashley, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, Darren, I would be curious to know why we have to assign blame to the other party, and that makes it easier sometimes. Why are we doing that? I'd be curious to know.
Oh my! Me and you are on agree. We should not. As Fred and I was talking, the blame is not on the left or the right. For me, as a Christian, I would say the blame is clearly in the devil's hand, and he's playing us like a fool. And the way he's playing us is he's saying, oh, the left is doing this, oh, the right is doing it, and the left is doing some stupid stuff, really stupid stuff. And the right, Trump, as the last time I was here, you guys asked me about January 6th. And I was like, that was the stupidest thing in the world. I hated it, you know? As a conservative, I hated what he did. So I'm not trying to assign blame, but
And that, I think, is the big problem, is we're trying to assign blame instead of getting to the truth. If you are on the left, then you're only listening to left wing politics and talking points. You're never going to understand what the right says, which is why I would come to a conversation like this. Is because I want to understand Morris. I want to understand Daniel. I want to understand Fred, Donald. I will talk to anyone, which is exactly what Charlie Kirk was doing.
Thank you. For the sake of time, we're going to take, Daniel, we're going to take, if there's one person who'd like to take 2 minutes to respond to this question as a Black person. This is my take on the Charlie Kirk situation. We have time for one more person.
I think I saw Donald's hand.
Okay, Donald.
Oh, you didn't know. Okay.
No. Was that a no, Fred, or a yes?
He said no.
Okay, all right.
I'm not supposed to be talking, am I?
Nope.
No,
Okay.
No, you did.
We're just waiting.
No, you did.
We're just waiting. Thank you. So we end 3 practice circles with thank yous to people who challenged us or made us think or encouraged us, or by something they said or even the way they said it, especially if they demonstrated unusual curiosity, staying in the room with difference, or resisting the impulse to compare their best with other people's worst. Who would you like to thank? Who would like to go first in thanking someone for helping you in some way today? Morris.
Yeah, so I probably like to thank Darren most of all, because we are all not a monolith, and I understand that everyone has their views on things, and it's important to hear everyone's side. It's very informative to me. It also lets me know how much work we still have yet to do. We have a lot of work to do, folks, and that's the one I want to thank the most.
Thank you. Thanks, Morris. Anyone else? Somebody you'd like to thank? Daniel.
I want to thank Jim Henderson and Jim Hancock for providing this forum for me to be able to stay in the room of difference even when my soul's being destroyed. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for making me a better person and a better man. I'd like to thank Fred for his courage for this subject. I'd like to thank Morris and Donald for the questions and their willingness to step out of their comfort level. I want to thank Jeff Stevenson for being a white pastor asking, what can I do to make this right? That's the most important question that was asked today. And I want to thank Ashley for just being Ashley. Thank you, Ashley. Yeah, my soul is wounded today.
Okay.
But thank
you. Thanks, Daniel. Anyone else? Someone you'd like to thank? Okay, I'm sorry, Donald.
Yeah, I would like to thank Fred for the invitation to be here today. Daniel, I thank you for your questions and your conversation. And I too feel I've lived a long time in this country and born in this country, but I feel a sense of the divide, and this ideal of right and left is taking us out.
Thank you.
And so I just want to thank you for this opportunity to share, and how do we meet the needs of the young people, whether they're crying or not, meet their needs.
Thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, I would like to thank Fred for putting the invitation out on Fred. I saw it on Facebook from your youth specialties days. Done youth ministry for 30 years, but now serving as a pastor. Actually,
thank you for your service.
Yeah, I'm a pastor in Utah.
Wow.
And my heart is absolutely broken by the condition of our country, of our world, and you all want to thank you because you were giving me some hope today. Even in the brokenness, I find hope.
And
Thank you. Thanks so much, Fred.
I'd like to thank one of my closest friends is Darren in life. We talk about, like we said, we talk about everything, and I love that we can talk about this difference in income. And I just learned even more just in this time together. So I appreciate that. And I want to say thanks also to both Daniel and Jeff. You guys clearly displayed heartbreak. And I think the truth is that we are all broken right now. And we're dealing with and we're negotiating and navigating this brokenness. And for Daniel, for your birthday to come and go into, like what I'm saying, I think we got to go deeper into the pain. We haven't struck the nerve yet. We have to keep going. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred. Elaine.
I'd like to thank everyone here tonight, and I'd like to thank Three Practice Circles for offering this opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish we had more circles like this because I am learning so much while exhaling my white self breath. Thank you, everyone.
Darren, I want to thank you specifically for showing up and being yourself and giving us your life perspective on this. It's very valuable, and also honestly being measured in an environment that could be difficult. And thank you for participating in such a heartfelt way. I really appreciate it. Darren?
I like the group is awesome. All of you guys are awesome. All of your perspectives are very well heard. I want to say to those, especially you guys that have a different perspective of mine, believe me, I hear you and I pray over it, which is why Fred and I want to thank Fred also. Thank you for inviting me, which is why Fred and I can have such robust, thought-provoking conversations. So I'm so grateful. I guess it's Jim and Jeff that do the group. Thank you for this
Jim
group.
and
It's
Jeff.
awesome. It's awesome. I appreciate you.
Come back more. We need you. So last call for thank yous. It's okay to double down on thank yous if there's someone.
I wanna thank Darren for his facial expressions that were so honest. Just to watch him listen is beautiful.
35 years, girl. 35 years.
Love it. It's so much honesty. And just I'm grateful for this group of people who showed up today and had conversations that I honestly don't get enough privy to be a part of. So I appreciate that.
All right. With that, the circle is officially closed. If you have a few minutes to say hello afterwards, we'd welcome you to stick around. However, we don't relitigate what we're doing, what we just talked about. But if you'd like to meet somebody or say where you're from and all of that, we'll take a few minutes. And if you need to go, thank you for being here. We appreciate your participation.